Milwaukee, make some noise for your headliner, Josh Johnson.
Been very excited. I've been very, very excited. Been highly anticipating a bout that's coming up. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Some of you may have not known that this was going to happen, but in case you didn't, Mike Tyson is going to box Jake Paul, and I'm excited more for the spectacle than the actual fight. I don't know what's going to happen in the fight exactly, but it is one of the wildest encounters of two people punching each other that you could have ever imagined. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, a star, a bona fide star globally of the 80s, fighting one of the most popular influencers that the modern era has to offer. And it just feels like somehow the 80s are fighting the 20s. Do you know what I mean? Like, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul feels like Sylvester Stallone versus Liam Hemsworth. It's like, you're just kind of like, what? How are they even close enough in age to have anything to argue about? This is crazy. If you don't know Mike Tyson, I know that some people are too young to have like really watched him fight. I'm too young to have like remembered those fights live. Some of them I wasn't even around for, but I watched the tape and it's devastating. Mike Tyson is one of the most bona fide terrifying people. You know what I mean? Some of the things that Mike Tyson would just say, I'd be like, oh, to even think it, you must be willing to do it. Do you know, like there was a press conference one time where Mike Tyson was sitting there and he's like, this thing, I don't think these guys understand. I'm not here to just box. I'm not here to fight or anything. I'm trying to take their health. Sir. The question was, what has your preparation been for this match? Mike Tyson he's like an embodiment of like everything like fierce, violent, and dangerous in one person that also very much loves birds. And what's wild about Mike Tyson is that from the time that he was young, right, to present, he had taken a genuine, not only interest, but maybe an obsession with the way that the world works, understanding oneself and understanding the world and how who you are applies to the world, right? So he said some of the most fascinating things around Alexander the Great, around conquerors, around kings, around how to win a mental battle as well as like a physical one, how war works. He has such an understanding of the world. And then he says other things. Other things that are so scary that you're like, sir, just shoot me. Don't want to have to deal with this, you know? And a lot of it bleeds together because it's not my time, right? I'm not like from that era, but you watch these old compilations of press conferences and interviews and post-fight interviews with Mike Tyson, I was scared for the reporter. Because you have a man who's been training to basically kill a man with his fists, even if it took him 12 rounds, and it took half of one. So by the time you interview him, he's still got a lot of energy. There was one time they were trying to interview Mike Tyson after a fight. They're in the ring with him. They're putting the mic in his face and everything. And he's so amped and he's talking. He's like, y'all don't understand. Like, I'm from Sonny Liston's cloth. I'm the most fierce. And he starts describing not just who he is as a boxer, but his training and everything. And then at the end of it, he goes, I don't know, man. What? And I think if I had been the reporter, I'd also be like, nothing. I didn't say anything. Don't worry about me. Mike Tyson press conference was a master class in psychological warfare. He would say things that had you thinking like, oh man, this dude's like out of his mind. Or this dude really wants to kill me and I don't know him. That's gotta be tough as a fighter, to sign up for a fight. And you know we both fight. But one of us loves fighting. And we both like it, that's why we do it, and we're both good at it, that's why we do it. But one of us is so excited to hit, they don't care if they get hit. It's a very different person. Do you know what I mean? Even when you're mad, even when you're angry, and you're like, that's it, let's fight. You're trying to get the aggression out, and you want to hurt the other person. And yeah, maybe you're willing to take a few punches, but you aren't in a fight loving getting hit just so you can give a hit. It takes a different type of person, and Mike is a different type of person. You know? When you look at where Mike Tyson comes from, it's astounding that he made it to where he was. You know, Mike Tyson comes from Brooklyn, was in Bed-Stuy, and then at a young age moves to Bronzeville, and it's devastating because it's not the Brooklyn that you know now. You know what I mean? Like there were no cupcake shops. It was Brooklyn in a way that was, let's say the property would be cheap, all right? Like if you were trying to buy, all right? Devastating conditions. And he talks about how there was just, you couldn't even go to the bathroom inside sometimes where they were staying and stuff. And all that stuff can make a hardened person. Because he didn't just have to live in certain conditions. He had conditions waiting for him when he got outside. He talked about it. He had to fight. He had to fight all the time. He had to be ready to be tough all the time. People will test you all the time, right? He talked about his first fight. Because like I said, Mike Tyson loves birds. It's truly one of the sweetest things about him. It's one of the things that like gives you a glimpse into the humanity of a person that's only known as being this fierce beast, right? Loving these birds, being gentle with them, caring for them, spending time with them, you know? Really taking care of them. And when he was a kid, there was a kid who took his bird. And he was like, give it back, give it back, give it back. And give it back, I think give it back genuinely in the way that a kid is asking you earnestly from the bottom of their heart, no, please, give it back, right? And that kid killed that bird in front of him. And then Mike Tyson, I'm assuming, killed that kid because he at least let him remember what would happen. And Mike would get into trouble, and it's easy to say, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, right? All those things can be true. Obviously, you shouldn't be robbing people, you shouldn't be selling stuff, you shouldn't be out here with these people who are on a bad path and everything. But when you have what looks like no other option from those things, how can you expect someone to just know you drive down the path that's been paved, you know? And so he ends up in like detention centers and stuff like that. And at one point, Mike Tyson meets Customato. And Customato sees him, and immediately he knows. He knows this kid is special and he's different. And not only just because he's built different, not only because he's big for his age, there's just something about him. And he gets the opportunity to like box a little bit. He goes to the gym, he's hitting bags and stuff, spars a little bit. And Customato sees in something in him. And after sparring, you know, as the story goes, they ask this kid who's just sparred with some grown men, how old are you? And then Mike goes, I'm 13. And then these grown men look at each other and go, this nigga at least 30. Like, there's no way. You better put a 0 behind that 13. That's, what? 13. And Customato, to my knowledge, actually adopts Mike Tyson. Takes him into his home, right? Not just to train him, but to care for him, to love him. You know? Because all this energy, all this fierce potential can really go somewhere if you nurture it, right? And then under Customato's leadership, Mike Tyson does become as fierce of a person as Customato thinks he can be in the ring. And Cus believed in him before he believed in himself. I think that's why their friendship, that mentorship is like, when you see it, there's something special about it. Because anyone who sees anything in any of us and pulls it out of you, right, just with their belief, that's a very special thing. And the only people that wish Customato hadn't done what he did are probably Mike's opponents. Because Mike would have fights that were so damn fast. You can see it even in the video, even in some of the amateur fights that were actually on video. You can see in the opponent where they were like, does he have a hammer? What is he doing? That really hurt. No. And then Mike gets older. Mike becomes world champion. Youngest world champion, right? In there with a boxer with real experience, who's also a special fighter, right? But Mike hits him in a way that maybe he's never been hit before. And if you go back and you watch the video of this knockout, I shouldn't laugh, but Mike didn't just knock this dude out. Like, he didn't knock him out cold, right? This dude gets knocked down again, and he's trying to get up, and you can tell that his body is like, dog, we done. Don't. No. You know, like when you're in a bar fight and your buddies hold you back, that was that guy's whole body. Like, you can even hear the announcer be like, oh, he's fighting to get up, but his body won't let him, because his body is like, parts of him that didn't get hit. This dude got hit in his head and the chin, and even his feet and his knees and his hips were like, look, if you ever want to speak to us again, don't stack us up on top of each other right now. You need to sit down. And then Mike Tyson becomes world champion. He becomes everything that Customato thought he could be. He becomes everything that he knew he was, right? It's a beautiful moment. And then it's important when you think of Mike Tyson to understand that Mike Tyson is America. A lot of Mike Tyson's story is how America works, right? There are parts of this country that if you travel to, you'll think you're in another country for how poor they are, how broken, the conditions that people are living in. You know, it looks like the developing world in some parts of America, and we don't like to talk about it. We especially don't like to take care of those people because it means we have to really look at ourselves to do it. But there are people that come out of those conditions that build themselves up into something that no one else could have imagined based on where they started, right? Mike Tyson is just like America. Mike Tyson is fierce, fearsome, you know, incredibly violent. People in other countries look at America the way that we look at Mike Tyson. Genuinely, if you travel, and I mean really travel, I'm not talking about just go to the tourist spots and the places that are popular to go. If you really travel and you know world history and you go to a place and you ask them about America, right? A country that we've attacked before, you know? They look at us like we have a tattoo on our face. Mike Tyson builds himself up, and he doesn't just get the world championship. He has some very, very impressive fights where you can average his whole fight time out to like maybe a round and a half. He's beating people so fast it's actually upsetting the crowd. I know people who paid a lot of money to go to a Mike Tyson fight and went in the bathroom at the wrong time. Sit there the whole fight card holding it, and then you're like, oh, he's only walking out, I got a second. And then from the bathroom you hear, oh. You're like, oh no. I mean, then Mike goes down a downward spiral. He loses Customato. He loses this person that was a mentor, that was a friend, you know? And he tries to find his way, but he's still very young. People forget how young he was when he was Mike, when he was Iron Mike, and he was fearless and he was undefeated, and starts, getting lost in it. And he'll tell you that. He's talked about that. He got lost, right? Goes to jail at one point. Like, this dude is on a dark path, And even, this is attributed to Mike Tyson. I don't know if he actually said it like this, but he was like, I was a baby. And you gave me millions of dollars to punch people in the face. And you didn't think this was going to go off the rails somehow? Like, you didn't think that this was a bad idea, maybe? No. That's who's fighting. This guy who's relentless, So much fear. Imagine you're in the ring with Mike Tyson and he won't stop staring. Just the face-off, just watching the face-off, you would see it in his eyes. He's like, I would very much like to hurt someone today. And legally, it's you. And he was fast, and his movements were jerky, but they were quick, and they clearly hurt, because some very big men did not get up. He would hit people so hard sometimes that you'd be like, I think that guy's dead. And then he'd twitch, you'd be like, he's all right. That's who's fighting. And then you have Jake Paul. One thing people need to understand about Jake Paul, if you don't, he's very much, we are in Jake Paul's time. Whether we like it when I say that or not, he's having his Mike Tyson moments right now. World famous, around the world. People tune in from around the world. They watch his fights, they watch his YouTube videos. This dude is a true, bona fide star, right? And we can argue about if he's as popular as Mike was back then and why the internet is different, but he is very popular. And he loved boxing. He feels like boxing saved him. That's something similar that he has with Mike, because this kid, he got a camera from his dad, him and his brother, when they were young, and it was to film themselves while they were doing football so that they could improve, right? Which I don't know how that works. I don't play enough football. Like, if I did that and tried to tape myself playing football to improve, I think I would just be like, this is where I got hit. And this is when I hit the ground. I think that's all I did. I don't know was that right? Is that how you do it? And so him and his brother start making videos, like little YouTube videos, whatever. They're putting them online. They're getting some looks every now and again. But then Vine came out. And if you don't know what Vine is like TikTok granddaddy. And they start making Vines, and they get very popular almost overnight. They are huge on Vine. Everybody thinks they're funny, and they love to follow them. They want to know what they're doing next. They're getting all this money, endorsements, everything. At one point, Jake Paul is on the Disney Channel. I don't really know what he was doing, but it was quick. And then they start posting on YouTube and they start getting millions of subscribers on YouTube. These kids are bona fide popular and they understand something that maybe the rest of us just don't, and that's why they are where they are. They understand internet culture, they understand marketing and business, they understand the way that the world is turning, right? And it's the age of the influencer, right? And a lot of people want to be influencers, some people don't want to be. You can accidentally become famous, and that's a terrifying thing. You become famous in a way that you really didn't mean to, you know? You're just living your life. But somebody puts a cell phone on you, or you don't know you're in someone's shot, and you trip weird, and you go, and now you're, like that's who you are as a guy. And then people see you in the world, and they're like, hey, we love you, dude, we love, that's our favorite. Man, keep killing it, dog, keep killing it. But before you know it, just one thing, just one meme, just one moment catapults you to this level of fame that no person can be prepared for. Whether you're Mike Tyson in the 80s or you're Jake Paul now, people don't understand that like fame that you weren't even trying to get can mess with your mind, right? And so Jake Paul was on a dark path as well. He was probably headed for a bad place, and then he started boxing and he loved it. And boxing to a degree saved him. And so he's out here boxing, you know? And at first he starts fighting like YouTubers, like fellow YouTubers, because that garners attention. Because sometimes you see two people who don't like each other and you're like, man, it would be kind of funny if they fought. And this is the thing about us. We as people love a fight. Whether we like to admit that about ourselves or not, we love a fight. I've been walking down the street and seeing kids on the park sinking threes from far away, Steph Curry level, right? And I'm like impressed, and I maybe watch him do two more, and then I'm like, he's getting it in. He'll be fine. But if I see a fight in the park, I stop. Because I'm wondering, you know? But no, we're in this age where I think people sometimes want to be famous more than they want to do something. You know, and that's where you get some of these things, some of these imitators of Jake Paul, of Logan Paul and stuff like that. There was a kid whose story, like, it blew my mind. Basically, there was this kid doing these pranks, and they were like barely pranks. It was just being obnoxious. It was just being like horrible to people and messing with people to try to get a reaction out of them. Because not only are we the new like influencers, everyone, all of us, all the time, it could happen to any one of us, but because of how people become influencers, because of how people get popular, they are our paparazzi now. You're just living your life, but now you're in someone's video and they're trying to make you act a certain way. That's not what we signed up for, you know? You should at least be rich to have that happen. And so this kid was making this video and he was messing with this guy in the mall and he was following him around. He was just like, not just being annoying, he seemed like to also be intimidating him a little bit, and he was really following him, trying to get him to answer some question or something. And finally, this little guy, he's like a very small guy, and he did not look well, right? He finally goes, stop, and then he pulled out a gun and shot him. And I am praying that's not him. This dude pulls out a gun and he shot him. There's this loud bang in the mall and people start screaming and running and everything. But from the vantage point of like the person who, because he posted it himself, the kid, the influencer who was making the prank video, posts the thing and he's coming at him and the guy's like, stop, bang. And then as soon as you hear the bang, this kid, the prankster goes, oh! And to be fair, there's no cool way to get shot. But he goes, oh! And he hits the ground. And that guy walks off, and obviously he gets arrested and everything. They explain the situation. I believe he got released. And then this kid goes to the hospital. He's fine, right? He's fine. He got shot in the side, and he's fine. But when they ask him about it, they ask him how he feels about the fact that this thing happened. Like, is it change how he's going to make content? He got more followers from it happening because it got on the news, and people wanted to see the kid that got shot, and they wanted to see the other stuff that he did. So he did get more popular, right? And they wondered how he felt towards the gunman. This guy shot you, and you were being annoying, but did you deserve to be shot, right? And then this kid sitting in his hospital bed. His dad, by the way, is furious. His dad is like, there are people saying my son deserved to be shot. My son's just a kid, right? And this kid sitting in his hospital bed, when he's asked these questions, goes, it is what it is, dog. Like, which I can't tell, is that a good attitude about it? But it lets me know it's not just a few people. It's not just a few individuals. We're in an age. It's an age of if I can be popular, maybe I can be safe, maybe I can be liked, maybe I can be something, whatever it is. But it's apparently worth being shot over for some people. And make no mistake, Jake Paul is America. I don't know how it feels to have me say that, but Jake Paul is America. A lot of what America embodies is what Jake Paul is, right? America is business, usually business first. We can worry about being a country later. It's business, and it's fame, and it's money, and it's influence, right? You go to some of these backdoor meetings that some of these world leaders have when America convinces them to do something. We don't know how they do it. Maybe it's with money. Maybe it's with other things. Maybe they're like, hey, look, we'd hate for something to happen to your whole island. Influence. See what I mean? And so now you have these two boxing, and people don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, there are people that want Mike Tyson to hurt Jake Paul very badly. And then there are people who just want to see a fight. They just want to see what it would look like. You know what I mean? They just want to see what it would look like if, like, that guy from The Breakfast Club fought Timothy Chalamet. Like, just... They just want to see two generations go at it. You know? Because let's be honest, it's an odd fight. You know, Jake Paul has fought former MMA fighters. He's fought former NBA players. He's fought YouTubers. He's fought one established boxer, maybe two pro boxers that I know of, right? Because I don't know his entire record. But he said that the thing that made him do this, the thing that made him push for it and create it, was he did some ayahuasca. And when he did the ayahuasca, he said he saw himself fighting Mike Tyson. And if I'm being honest, taking ayahuasca and seeing yourself fighting Mike Tyson sounds like something Mike Tyson would say doing ayahuasca. Like, I could more clearly see Mike Tyson doing ayahuasca, and he's like, I saw myself fighting Jake Paul. I don't know, man. I had to think to myself, you know, if I did ayahuasca and I saw myself fighting Mike Tyson, I'd probably have to sit back and be like, maybe heroin's the answer. Like, I don't know. This ayahuasca is not it for me. No, thank you. You know? And so, as soon as he had that vision, though, he put it into motion. And that's the marketer, that's the businessman, that's the promoter in Jake Paul. He saw this thing and he had to create it. That's also America, by the way. You go to other countries and you're like, oh, I have this big dream of doing this thing. A lot of countries are set in their ways, right? America is properly crazy. We'll let you do anything, fundamentally. And so now they have a press conference. They're together, and Jake Paul's very good at being the heel, you know what I mean? But it's hard to be the heel when you're fighting Mike Tyson. Like, people might be booing you, but he's saying truly upsetting things. Mike Tyson was in a press conference one time, and he was like, look, all I want is for his kids to be watching us fight and see me beat them so bad that they're like, Daddy, no. Hearing Mike Tyson quotes out loud genuinely makes me want to learn Tai Chi. So in case I ever come across Mike Tyson, I can look like I'm about to fight him while also backing up. Like, and some people think that the fight's just a spectacle. Some people think it's a real fight. There are kids who think Jake Paul's got to beat Mike Tyson, right? Jake Paul's a great boxer. Let's see it happen. I'm so excited to see Jake Paul whoop this guy. There really are both sides to this thing. And it's going to be on Netflix, which who knows if that's a mistake. Do you know what I mean? Who knows if they fight and then one of them dies and we're just sitting there like, so... are we accomplices, or just sitting there, stoic, don't know what to do next, and Netflix is like, are you still watching? Not now, man. You know? And it's a gamble as well. It's a gamble. It's one of the biggest gambles we've seen, because Mike Tyson is, to some degree, putting his legacy on the line. He's one of the most fierce fighters that's ever lived. People talk about Ali and Tyson. When they talk about boxing, they don't really know anything about it. You know those names. And then Jake Paul's putting something on the line, too. It's like, I had this idea, I had this dream of fighting Mike Tyson, and maybe I'm just out of my mind and I'm going to be hurt very badly. And Netflix is putting something on the line, because it's like, will people watch? Will someone die? It's a genuine gamble. And if America is anything, it's a proper gamble. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we do. I don't know. I admire an aspect of what Jake is doing, because Jake loves boxing. And no one will probably ever give him credit for it, but he is revitalizing a part of boxing. People talk about boxing a little bit more now because of the popularity that he brings in, the new kids that he brings in, and he's putting himself on the line because he loves boxing. And that, to me, is wild. Like, I love hip-hop, but I wouldn't try to battle Kendrick Lamar. Like...
Give it up for Josh Johnson.
This weekend, wow, it is for everybody. I imagine this weekend was weird. It was weird because for like half a day, we did think half a day. That's so long. Half of a day. It's a very long time to think the president. And then, we found out, oh, that wasn't the case. And they posted you know. The news reports came out. They were like, the president's been found golfing in Virginia. It's like, don't say found like that. Found. Like a lost senior. Found. It's insane. Just say he was golfing in Virginia. Found in Virginia? It makes it sound like the White House didn't know. I'm pretty sure they drove him. Found. 12 hours is too long to think somebody's dead. My buddy lives with his grandpa. And every time he thinks his grandpa's dead, he finds out in about 5 minutes. His granddaddy does that sleep you only do when you old. You know that sleep where you like, like I don't know why, but like it seems like after 70, people just sleep with a little bit too much neck. You know what I mean? Like his granddad can't just go to sleep. He always hit the. Like, that's a very dead way to lay. That's how Talia died at the end of Dark Knight Rises. She like. The neck crank is a surefire way for somebody to put a spoon in front of your nose to see if you're still kicking. He does it a lot, apparently, you know, because his granddaddy sleeps pretty deep. And there's that whole thing about sleep being the cousin of death, and I think it's his granddaddy's half-brother, because not even a snore, not even a, you know what I mean? He said he always thinks his grandpa gone when he take a nap, because the way he falls asleep, which, to be fair to my friend, this is, I've never seen this in anyone else in my entire life. But he said his granddad will go take a nap. He'll announce it too, like, I lay down. And then he goes to lay down, whether it's on the couch or it's in his room, and lays his head back. And he said the way his granddaddy falls asleep is he takes a deep breath. That's a great way to look dead. This man goes to take a nap, lays on the couch and goes, Now, to be fair to his granddaddy, every time he wakes up, he does finish the breath. Said his granddaddy never wake up peaceful. He always wake up. But even then, he's never wondered if his granddaddy was gone for 12 hours. 12 hours. Jeez. And we thought that because Trump doesn't look good. You know what I mean? He just finally looked like he act like. You know what I mean? Like if somebody listed everything a person did next to everything that they ingested, you'd be like, that's not a person who's well. And finally, he doesn't, he just doesn't look like he's doing great. I didn't even know the term. He had some venous thing. Turns out that venous thing was his ankles. His ankles, I don't know if you've seen them. World leaders have seen them. World leaders have had to sit there and not look. In case you're not familiar, look, Trump's ankles are... No, his ankles just sitting there looking, caked up. I mean, he got some thickums under those socks. Trump's ankles have quite a bit of booty. I can't imagine what that must be like to be an aide in the White House and walking next to the president, taking orders from the president of the United States, but all you can hear is his ankles clapping. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, it is. It's like his ankles and then his hand. That hand. His hand is black. Like, it's just... Imagine being Donald Trump and turning black. No one's more upset than him. No, that's bad. That's tough. He's over here trying to live, and if you just don't have something on the schedule, people assume. It's funny too because I go back and forth with friends. I have friends that are sort of across the political spectrum. I have these friends who, whether they tell me or not, I know that they voted for Trump. At least one of them, pretty sure, voted for him 3 times. Every time he could, he did. And so we'll go back and forth all the time. We'll mostly be arguing all the time. And we argue about a bunch of things that aren't Trump as well. Like sometimes we'll just argue about like whole social issues, whole different policies and everything. And maybe it's because I've known him longer than Trump has been president that I feel like having those arguments is, to me, worth it. I don't ask anybody else to do everything that I'm doing, but I think that there is something to get to the bottom of, and it's what we are gonna do when he's gone. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that right now it's easy to put everything that's happening and how we feel about each other on one person, because it's sort of the catalyst for all this stuff. But the groundwork was being laid long before he ever became president. And so whenever he's gone, we're all going to have to figure out a way to relate to each other. Because it's not as if all of the problems begin and end with him. He's just one of them. Woo. But I don't know. No idea. It's maybe. We don't know. It could be any day now. It could be 200 more years. Truly, like my grandma was in the nursing home before she passed, and I would go visit her and everything. My grandfather as well. At different times, they were in nursing homes, and when I go to visit them, you'd see people who had to be 3,000 years old, and it's like, I don't know. You try to live a life that's full of love, and like you try to make memories and moments with family, with strangers. You want to have a full life. You want to have a life that you look back on and you're proud of the impact you had on people, and along the way, try maybe, I don't know, eat right when you can, but enjoy yourselves, And drink sometimes, not too often. Maybe party a little bit when you're younger and wean off of it as you get older, but do your best to have a really impactful life, even if you never become whatever it is, like rich, famous, popular. You're someone who, by being in other people's lives, their lives are richer. And same way that trees in the forest have roots that overlap, your life impacts other people's lives. You create ripple effects and create positive change in the world. And hopefully by doing all the right things, you have a good, long life. Or you could be the devil and probably live way longer, like way longer. So many of those people in that nursing home were very mean. They were so mean. I was like, man, life must run off hate fuel. How are you this old and mad you're alive too? Be sitting there, none keeps you alive longer than sitting in a rocking chair and not rocking. Imagine, you gotta really be a bad person to sit in a rocking chair, have the joy of rocking and not even want it. My friend said, he went through a similar thing. He would go to the nursing home, visit his grandparents and stuff, and he said every day there was this old dude in a rocking chair, not rocking, sitting there, arms crossed in the chair. Everybody walked by. People would say hello to him. Finally, he was like, you know what? I say hello to this man when I pass him, and we never really have a conversation. He doesn't speak to me, and I don't take it personally because you never know what people are going through. Some people, you might think they're being rude, but maybe they have something going on. Maybe they have dementia a little bit, or maybe they're in their own head about something, trying to remember something and doing something. So he said, I'm going to make a point the next time I go there to have a conversation with him. You know what I mean? Because that's the one thing he said he never saw anybody do. And so next time he went to visit his grandpa, on the way out, he walked up to him and he was like, hi, how you doing? The man said, I'm alive. And it's like, well, I hope you're having a good day. He's like, why would it be a good day? And, well, it's nice outside and everything, sun shining. You're in a rocking chair. And he was like, I'm in a rocking chair. I don't like this rocking chair. I just sit in it so nobody else cares. It's easy to put everything in the way that we are now and all narratives and all discourse on just one person. It's easy to do that, especially when that person looks like they're driving all of it, right? But the ground was laid for this person long before they came into any sort of political picture. You know what I mean? Like for a long time, people have felt like there was nobody who was looking out for them. For a long time, people felt like it would take somebody who could not be bought by Washington or Wall Street's special interest money, or couldn't be twisted in whichever direction by lobbyists, or was looking out for people because they weren't motivated by money, and they weren't motivated by the promise of getting rich, and the thing that we came to believe as a country almost. You saw this way before Trump ever entered the political picture, is that if someone was at least independently wealthy, maybe they wouldn't be swayed by the money. You know what I mean? And there were those people across political spectrum that felt like there was no one looking out for them, that slowly everything that was their quality of life and everything that they earned was eroding away piece by piece, right? And that they just needed someone to step up who would stand in the way of all that and wouldn't be swayed by it. And unfortunately, that person never showed up. But like... And so I have these arguments with my friend, and there was one point where going back and forth for a while, because I felt like for everything that he said, I was saying something that was a reason why he shouldn't trust Trump on it, or why I didn't think it was something that was going to happen, you know? And finally he goes, well, you know, he's a businessman. And I had heard this before, and he said he's a businessman. And I was like, oh, he's a businessman. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman, though. No, like he is a businessman. He is a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. You said he's a businessman, and he's a businessman. You told me he's a businessman. I've heard this before. He's a businessman. I'm just making sure that I understand what you're saying. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman. So even you didn't say good businessman. You said, You said, as in he's one, as in, yes, he does business. It's a businessman. Yeah. He's a businessman. He is a businessman that bankrupted a casino. You know casinos. You know those things you don't generally leave money with. He bankrupted a casino. He's a businessman. He bankrupted a casino. A casino, though. He's a businessman. It's a businessman. Bankrupted a casino. And look, I'm not a businessman. And I don't own a casino. In fact, whenever I go to a casino, I don't even gamble. I just do the show. I've done some shows at casinos. And then, I do the show, and then I go back to my room. I leave. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of running a casino. I hardly know what it's like to really, enjoy yourself at a casino, walking through and playing games and stuff. I've walked with other people as they've wanted to gamble and stuff like that. I've been awkwardly standing there, but I don't know what it takes to run a casino. And maybe this casino, maybe I'm throwing this out there as an olive branch. One of many I'll extend. Maybe this casino, this one, maybe had those slot machines that really give you credit for how hard you pull them. You know what I mean? You pull that slot machine as hard as you can, and the slot machine's like, okay, Daddy. Nah, I gotta get you a little something for that. No, I don't know, but he knows because he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Maybe I'm throwing it out there that at this casino they had, working for the casino, blackjack dealers that were as bad at blackjack as me. Maybe. The dealer, you'd be at his table, and he was like, you said hit? You sure? Okay. And you win again. All right, wonderful. I don't know. He probably knows because he's a businessman. Maybe this was one of the only casinos in all of America, maybe in all of the world, the only casino with clocks. Who knows? Maybe just over the poker table was a clock, and people were like, 9 already? I should go home. I've been here for quite a while. I don't know, but I'm sure he knows because he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Bankrupted a casino. A businessman. And look, it's a casino. I can't think of a better... People come and drop off their money and leave. I can't think... I am not a businessman, but I can't think of a better business to make money. You can't even have casinos everywhere. But, you know, this is my thing. A part of me does understand how someone could think all we need to do is get a businessman in there to fix everything, because I think that America runs so much like a business, even in the parts that it shouldn't, that obviously we're going to think everything translates to business. You know? Like I didn't, this was where I was naive, I'll tell you right now. I thought that even if there was no national pride or community, or even if we couldn't find some sort of like camaraderie as Americans, we at least, at our very core, loved money enough. I thought we loved money more than anyone loved him. I thought as soon as somebody messed with the money, we would all come to our senses and be like, yo, not the money. That's the only thing holding this together. But then you see there are people whose lives have already been ruined. Because of his policies, you could lay all the blame at his feet, and they're like, I'll figure something else out. You'll figure something else out. That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. Especially when, like, what? 12 months ago, you were screaming about eggs. And now your business is in shambles. And you're like, who can say? That felt insane. But also, I think that if you look at America as a business, it would make sense that you would want a businessman in there. But the thing is, you can't run the country the way you run a business. You know, a company, if they are in dire straits, could lay off half their work staff and then try to keep things going, use that to stay afloat. A company can buy back its own stocks in an effort to enrich itself as a company, make those stocks worth more. A company has a fiduciary responsibility to its shareholders. A company technically does more for its shareholders than the government does for its people. And so I could see how people would be like, oh, we'd at least like to get that. That'd be nice, some dividends or equity, something. We'd at least like to feel solvent. No. But it just doesn't work that way. And I don't think it should. I think that a business now is very different than a business before. Like there's a thing that happened, and maybe it's only like my frame of reference because of age and everything, but I think that something happened in 2008 that we haven't recovered from still, which is that, like, for the first time ever, companies that truly screwed up beyond measure, like actually beyond measure, like they should have crashed everything. This is the type of stuff that you read in the textbook and then they, hung everybody. Like that's... We don't realize it, but that's the level of like nasty that it got in 2008. If you had, knocked off a couple hundred years and put it in France, there would have been a guillotine. You know what I mean? And instead, there was a bailout, but instead of a bailout of the people, it was a bailout of the companies, because we believe in business so much. We believe that everything works like a business, to the point where even the politicians, naively, maybe some of them sincerely, were sure that if we keep the business afloat, it'll keep the people afloat, because then people won't lose their jobs, and then people will still be able to get these services, and people will still buy these products, right? And what ended up happening is that, so many people were foreclosed on, so many people lost their jobs anyway, people's like 401ks and retirements were destroyed, and then the people that they gave the bailout to sort of, trickle down the economics, something got stopped up right at the top. And so people who had wrecked the economy beyond measure got a bonus. They got a bonus for wrecking usually when you break something. And ever since then, it feels like business is about not being left holding the bag. That's what real business seems to be now, is that you do everything you can to extract as much value as possible, and then you dip before everything comes crashing down, whether you dip because you sell the company or you dip because, you decide to shutter it after you've like fired everyone and ruined it as a service and everything. Basically private equity, right? So I believe he's a businessman. I do, because I'm sure, look, if we're talking business, to his credit, I'm sure that he was not worse off for bankrupting that casino. I'm sure it was the people that worked at the casino. I'm sure he stiffed some of the contractors who helped build the casino, but I'm sure that he found a way to leverage that debt, because he loves debt. He found a way to leverage that debt into his next venture, and then he started selling steaks or whatever. I don't know. Like, it was just, it's been a lot of products. You know what else it is too, is that you can't focus too much on this one person. It makes him more important than he really is. I understand that he's president. I understand he's one of the richest people in the world. But as far as importance, it's about what lasts, This dude, no wonder we thought he was gone. He went on Fox News. No wonder we thought he was gone. Trump went on Fox News. Everybody forget this. Trump went on Fox News and just started randomly, no one asked him, randomly talking about how he was trying to get into heaven. And it's like, then One thing my buddy's granddaddy never does is talk about the afterlife. Gets up, watches his shows, takes his naps, gets up and eats, and repeats. If he was pontificating on heaven, I think people would just start assuming that every nap really was the last nap. No. It's because, that man's hand. Guys, he's turning black. But I don't, look, I truly, I talk about Trump because he's in the news, but I don't really care about Trump. I care about people. What's going on with people? All of this is going to outlast this one person, And even in California, you see in California where there was one case, it seems contained and already treated and everything, but it is happening. One case of plague. You know plague. You know plague. Plague. Some would ask which plague. Apparently, the. You know plague from the producers of the Middle Ages. Plague. You know plague. Don't act like you don't know plague. You know plague. It's plague. The reason Europe's not bigger. Plague. You know plague. And no matter how much you may hate Trump, you gotta admit, this is some pretty bad luck. He 2 for 2 on presidential terms and plagues. That's crazy. That was wild. Yeah, first one a fluke. The second one, how did a plague skip Biden's era? Like that's. Plague. Because that's the fear, is that yes, they found one case, they treated it, they've even traced it back to a particular source, because it's really a climate change issue, because basically the fleas that carry plague are thriving right now in the warmer climate, and so then they're hopping on more rats, and then the rats might come in contact with people, right? And so there's always the fear, the possibility that it isn't just that one case, and it isn't just contained to California. There's a real fear and a possibility that plague could have spread to the president's hand. It's possible. Because what we did, and how do I put this? What we've done in the U.S. as far as presidents is not exactly like we're picking young ones. You know what I mean? Whatever you do, whatever that thing is, whether it's law, is military, or is business, we seem to want you to have a wealth of experience in that field. Because there's going to be 3 branches of the government, and you may not be familiar with all of them. Even if you're a career politician, you may not know how to wade perfectly through all of them. But, if you have a lot of experience in one thing, that could win you the trust of the people. And we haven't had a young president in a long time. I mean, Kennedy was one, young ones, a young guy being president. And we haven't really done that again. What we've done is we've let confidence and swag make up for youth. If you are the president and you present yourself in a way that makes us feel good, we will turn that back over to you in the sort of social capital that youth usually carries, right? Because we want you to have experience, but at a certain point, we have to be realistic, right? Bill Clinton wasn't young, but he had a saxophone. We had a saxophone, so we defended him. We were like, that shows lung capacity. Have you heard him play though? And then you had George W. Bush. Look, George Bush wasn't young, but he. I don't know. He just had like a childlike wonder to his. You could always tell when he was addressing the nation, and he had also just learned a new word. Bush would be up there like, terror. Did I do it good? And then you had Barack Obama. And Barack Obama was younger than some of the people who have been president, you know, before and since, but he wasn't a baby. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't incredibly young, but he had that exact thing I'm talking about. He had an energy that was like a mobilization behind him, and he had like some measure of charisma that made up for any youth he might have been lacking, you know? I remember when Barack Obama sang that Al Green. That was incredibly uncomfortable. No, because when it happened, I was at a get together with a bunch of aunties going, "Oh, Barack." I'm like, no. No, I'm trying to have my dinner right now. What you doing? Can't eat meatloaf in these conditions. And then you went from Obama to Trump, and Trump had that energy. He had people behind him, and he came off youthful because he was like a schoolyard bully. Anytime somebody said something, any interview that went awry, he was ready, nickname, anything. He was just coming at you all the time. It's like he fed off of it. It was his favorite thing to fight with the media and get people riled up. That feels like youthful energy. That feels like it's going to be here forever, you know? And then we went from Trump to Biden, who, to be fair, told us he was going to be old. I've talked about this before. We were coming at Biden. We asked Biden, and Biden was like, "Are you sure? I got a Werther's in my mouth right now." I'll do it if you want me to do it, but my car does smell like potpourri, so. I'll do it. If y'all want me to do it, I'll do it. For real. If y'all like, no. Like if I'm the only one that can stop them, if I need to do it, I'll do it. But just know, when I shake world leaders' hands at the G7, G20, whatever, my hand will pop a lot. Whole handshake. It's gonna sound like Orville Redenbacher. But if y'all insist. And then we got Trump again after Biden, and this feels very different. You go back and watch a rally of Trump from 2016, 2017, and then you watch a press conference now. Very different. It's very, very different. I mean, it seems like he's dying. Like it's... Because look, I'm not. It's not lost on me that to be an American, to live in the U.S., you have to become, or at least have an understanding of what you need to do to be a semi-good capitalist, right? And there are people that ask the question, how can you fight for a more equitable world while you're living in a system that is corrupt? And I look at it the way I look at when I travel and I meet people who live in the country, but they don't speak the language, right? Like your native language is compassion and charity. You weren't made specifically to speak the language of margin calls and derivatives, dividends and everything. That's a language you can learn to get by because you live here, but it's not the language you were born with. When your parents are raising you, or when you have fond memories of being a kid, they all come from things much deeper than money. And then as you get older, you clearly need money to get by. That's no crime. Like, you have to function as a society. So you learn how to move with money as best as possible, but you can get distracted. It can take you to a place that makes it hard to remember your humanity. You know what I mean? Like some people look at anyone who has succeeded in business as someone who must have earned it, but that's not how all business works. You know what I mean? Like if I own a house and I set it on fire and I run out of the house, am I a genius or did I just have an insurance policy? Maybe both, but maybe I'm a crook. You know? Like only solvency that you have to contend with is your soul. You know what I mean? The solvency is defined by a company's ability to pay its long-term debts, right? If a company's not solvent, you have no trust in that company, and you probably shouldn't invest in that company. And as long as we're keeping it to financial terms, a soul works in a similar way. Depending on your belief system, depends on if your solvency, your long-term debt is to God or family, your community or a cause. But like, you can tell the difference between a religion and a cult by how they measure those solvencies. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that every major religion doesn't have its blemishes. It has people, so it's going to have plenty of mistakes in its history. But, a religion that only speaks to what is deeper about you and what is in you and what happens outside of all of this is probably worth looking into, worth reading about. And anything that brings it all the way down to the material good is probably a cult. You know what I mean? Just because a cult usually wants your money. They start off pretty good. A cult usually starts off with like a great party or something. And then like, I don't know, in about 3 weeks, they're like, hey, how much do you make? Dividends work the same way. Dividends get paid out. Companies will pay dividends to their investors, and those dividends go to shareholders. They go to investors, and if you have ever been the beneficiary of someone's kindness or goodwill, then you have dividends to pay throughout your life, And I don't know if that can be understood if you only understand business. Country isn't a business. It just isn't. You know what I mean? Like, but who knows? He's a businessman. Like maybe he's Trump is a businessman the way JFK Jr. was a pilot. You know what I mean? Oh, all right. No, you should groan. You're on the plane.
Nothing.